Enjoying the lovely Louisville weather. 90 then 40. All right. I'm Josh, owner of Pushing Limits Diesel. We run a repair shop, and we're going to talk about pre-trip inspections and preventive maintenance today, which when people found out I was doing it, it kind of turned into a big joke, and people said, well, I've done a ton of mid-trips and post-trips, but I don't really do a pre-trip. So who in here does their pre-trips? Yeah, I might be called bullshit on that, but it's all right. So we're just going to kind of have a few slides of stuff that we have seen, and some of these are actually pretty recent, like within the last couple weeks. So this one here would be like brake shoes. And people always ask, well, when's your brake shoes wore out? When they get down to about a 1/4 inch, they're pretty well used up. You need to inspect your drums, keep an eye on cracks, anything like that. And a lot of this shit is just way easier to fix ahead of time than wait for it to cause huge problems on the road. Anybody know what this is? Yep, lug nuts are loose, exactly. So you see these little rust streaks like this, that's a pretty good indication you got a wheel getting ready to cause some big problems. So this truck was in our shop. It wasn't even here for this. So I'm like, well, probably I'll let him know about this and address this while it's here, So, but this guy's a carpenter. He don't know what he's looking at, so he just drives it, gets in it, and most people's idea of a pre-trip is start it, it's got oil pressure, roll out. Probably not the best idea. This one here, this trailer actually belongs to a friend of mine. I shouldn't say we don't service this stuff. We only service it when it comes in looking like this. Other than that, he just starts it and drives it. So this was probably a $50 wheel seal that turned into a $4,500 repair because it burnt spindle off the trailer and everything like that. He's extremely hard on equipment, and his theory is if it starts, he goes. But this is a prime example of something that could have been fixed in the shop in a couple hours, ended up turning into a couple-day job and a lot more money. This here's a pretty well brand new tire, and as you can see, it's got some pretty messed up wear on it. Your tires actually kind of tell a lot of stories about your truck. If you start looking at them and noticing things that are out of the ordinary, you get that looked at before it turns into something a lot worse. Because everybody knows tires aren't cheap, and this here caught soon enough can be corrected and probably still get some life out of this one yet, but this one here had some loose kingpins on it. So, and you can tell by that wheel that's on a newer Kenworth, that's not that old a truck. This thing don't work. Either I don't know how to use it. All right, this one here is going to lead me to, this is something probably somebody wouldn't catch on a pre-trip. This is broken leaf spring on a dump truck, and with the wheel on it, it's really hard to see. But one of my biggest pet peeves in this industry is people go to these quick lubes, get their oil changed, and that's all they do. They change the oil, change the filter, out the door they go. They don't grease half the shit, they don't look at nothing. And I preach and preach and preach to maybe take your stuff to, not necessarily me, but a shop that does quality work and actually looks at stuff. Because this truck was in here for something completely unrelated, and that's just something we caught. And right now it's not causing a big problem, but it's going to. Once that spring completely lets go, you got a lot bigger issues. There's a lot of shops, including myself, if a guy has 10, 15 trucks and drivers and everything, if you want us to come out and kind of do a little walk around on a pre-trip, we'd be more than happy to do that. Some of the DOT guys are more than happy to come to your facility and do that kind of thing, and they're not going to give you a ticket, they're just going to show you what the proper way to do things is. And I think sometimes spending that little extra money is well worth it. You're going to save money on the back end. And I'm pretty good friends with a couple state troopers and stuff. I actually got one bringing his personal truck into the shop Monday, and I kind of ask him stuff like this, and he's retired now, so he doesn't really do it, but he can refer you to people that will still do that. And I think that's a valuable tool, and especially on guys that are hauling like low boys and stuff like that. Load securement's a big thing. I don't really have any good pictures or examples of that, but there's a lot of different rules of that kind of stuff, and you're hauling around something that's 80 or 100,000 pounds. It needs to be right. Your tires need to be right, and your brakes, and this one here. So this isn't, the picture of the frame on the right is not the same truck. That was a different one. But you can see what happened to this truck. Frame completely broke in half on this thing, and the crack was pretty apparent where it was at. It was right on the spring hanger. Thankfully, the thing was in the field whenever it happened, and if he'd been going down the road when this happened, it's hard to tell what would happen, because it actually pushed the steering shaft into the cab and broke the steering column out of it. So we got that in there right now where you got the engine out of it, and we're going to get the frame all fixed on it, put it back together, and turn it into an insurance job. He turned it into all that, but I think that crack probably didn't just happen just then. I mean, I could be wrong, but I'm sure there were some signs of it before. But once again, the guy does his own services and everything, so, it didn't get caught. Anybody ever seen this before? Probably just started that morning, right? Brand new. It was fine yesterday, this morning. Yeah. I asked this guy, I said, how the hell did you not hear that? He goes, well, I just started feeling a vibration. I'm like, when? 6 months ago? But, this, I guess luckily he got it in there now. It was just pretty much a carrier bearing at this point. But, if that drive shaft leaves the chat, you got all kinds of problems. But I don't know. So, I guess a little bit about myself. I've been doing this almost 30 years now, and I just see this shit on a daily basis. And so much of it can be prevented, and pre-trips, I'm not a DOT officer. I can't tell you exactly how to do it, but getting to know your equipment and at least walking around it, looking at it, and trying to catch it before, to me, just is so much easier than having to deal with some of the shit on the side of the road. How many of you guys in here own trucks? So is it cheaper to fix it in the shop or do it on the side of the road? No. Yeah, neither one's cheap. Damn mechanics, right? But no, we actually have a different shop rate for when we do got to go out and fix shit on the side of the highway. So, and then you're usually at somebody else's mercy. You don't know them. You'd much rather deal with your local shop, right? Than have to deal with some guy 3 states away or whatever. But we get our customer stuff in there, and we fix what they want fixed, but then we also give them just a quick look over and everything. And, there's a lot of stuff that people just miss, and whether they don't know or... So that's kind of what we're here about, is to educate people a little bit on it. Everybody knows how to check a light, well, it works or not. Well, you may not know how to fix it, but you know how to check it. But, walking around a truck before you take off in it, most things, they leak off air overnight. You got to wait for it to air up anyway, so you might as well be doing something instead of sitting in the seat playing on your phone. But I don't know. We could talk about this breakdown shit probably for days and days and days, and it's just the cost of everything nowadays is just, through the roof, and trying to keep some of these things are cheap fixes until you have to fix them on the side of the road. Huh? Does everybody need to do pre-trip? That's a pretty good question. No, I don't think so. Bob only does his, he did 13 in the last 26 years, he said. I think he was joking. He said he mid-trips the hell out of a truck, though. Meaning he fixes it or he looks at them when they're broke, I guess. But so, me personally, I've owned trucks. Whenever I'm running them, I definitely look them over in the morning, pre-trip them, stop and get fuel, look them over, because shit does happen throughout the day, especially on these nice, lovely roads we're driving on nowadays. Stuff breaks, and it wasn't like that this morning, which is believable, but some of the shit I showed you, that was Probably wasn't that way that morning. But, so we got any questions on anything? Yeah, that's another good point. You got to kind of know the rules, and if, there's nothing wrong with not knowing anything about how a truck operates or whatever, but that's when you just ask somebody and get them to show you. I wanted to have a truck in here to show everybody stuff on, but they wouldn't let me do it, so I guess it won't fit through the door. Seemed like it would have been easier.
So, you said that you were... There we go. You said that your shop takes an extra look at rigs and notices problems and informs driver. I have yet to ever experience that anywhere. So, like, where should I be looking to take my rig to get that above and beyond? Because I can only catch so much, and like I've even looked at it, and I've had drive shaft, U-bolt just hanging by a thread that I totally missed. Like,
right.
And my boss made me come back and pre-trip it, but like I want that extra second pair of eyes or whatever. So where in the heck should I be taking my rig to? I mean, obviously your place, but like where else?
Well, there's a ton of good shops out there. There's also a ton that'll rip people off too. So that's what gives people like me a bad name sometimes. But honestly, the dealerships anymore, I don't know if they're the place to go. They got a lot of younger guys working there, and from my experience with them, there's definitely still good guys there, but they're getting fewer and far between. And there's good shops all across the United States. I mean, I know a bunch of guys from different states, and I don't know, where are you from?
I operate here in Kentucky.
Kentucky? Yeah, I mean, I'll do a little checking on that.
Would you recommend, like, instead of going to you said not really going to the dealers, more like the mom and pop?
Yeah, I think you're going to get more of a personalized service there, and, they're going to get to know your equipment. Like any one of my customers call me, I pretty well know what they got. I know what year it is, I know what truck it is. So you already know what you're working with before you even get to it. Getting that relationship with the shop, I think, is very important. And like you said, missing something. Well, most guys aren't going to crawl underneath their truck when it's raining and look at the drive shaft on a pre-trip. I mean, that's just the facts of life. I mean, I don't feel that's unreasonable. I mean, in some trailers, like low boys especially, it's almost impossible to see the brakes on them. We got a big construction fleet we do a lot of work for that they're always tearing up brakes. Brakes lock up, cam over, skids the tires. I mean, it gets expensive. But nobody crawled underneath that trailer. And trailers seem to, in my experience, they get neglected way more. The trucks go in the shop and get serviced. Well, the trailer sits in the parking lot. Nobody greases them. Nobody looks at them. And then these fleets that have 100 trailers and are different drivers driving them every day, he just hooks onto it and takes off. And that, to me, is important. Hey, take a look at that trailer, because just like that wheel bearing there, that guy didn't have no excuse for that because he pulls the same trailer every day. But that's the kind of shit that you can prevent. And that trailer actually caught on fire on the side of the road. So luckily he got it put out. But
he called you before he put it out.
Huh?
He called you before he put it out.
Yeah, he's like, well, it's on fire right now. I'm like, well, get off the phone and put it out. I mean, shit, man. I'll wait a minute. We were in Indiana whenever that happened, and about 6:30 in the morning, wasn't it, when he called me? Yeah, good times. This guy's a good friend of mine. I love him to death, but man, I wouldn't let him borrow my wheelbarrow. That's how hard he is on shit. I mean, he is. He drives Ford trucks, and I always said Ford needs to give you a pickup just so you can drive the son of a bitch and test it out. Because if it'll last a year with you, it's good to go.
So if you guys have your phones and you scan that QR code up there, it'll take you to a landing page that has all the ways to get a hold of him. So email, phone, website, socials, whatever. So if you do have questions about how to find a good shop and you want to ask him, that would be how you get a hold of him. We'll also be around like all day. So,
but I mean, if you...
We're going to go hang out by Charlie Trucker, I think, and eat popcorn with Brian.
If you, get a hold of a smaller shop, I just feel like you get better quality there. And I'm not saying that because it's me. I just, and there's several in our area, and we do try to go above and beyond. And one of the things we take pride on is keeping people's shit reliable. I mean, and, if you don't have that, it's probably worth the drive. I have several customers drive past how many shops to get to us. I mean, they drive 50, 60 miles to get to us. And I'm not trying to toot my own horn or anything. It's just that we do a good job for them. And, that's why they bring it. And, 'cause
Quality
we do.
service, fair prices.
Yeah. Yeah, and you'll never be slow, basically. But the truck with the broken frame there, like, we had that truck in our shop about 2 years ago, and it wasn't like that. We were doing something else to it. Because I definitely would have said something if I seen a crack in the frame rails, obviously. But, he just, farm trucks, they get neglected. They use them 2 months out of the year, and, they don't look at them. Pre-trip, put fuel in it, turn the key, let it rip,
Anyone else have questions?
You got one down here, Stephanie.
What would cause that cupping you showed on that steer tire on a trailer tire?
On a trailer,
Yes, sir.
a lot of times suspension bushings will start getting like some play in the bushing, which is that's hard to see. They're kind of inside the bracket the way they're made. You almost got to jack them up and pry on them a little bit. So that's probably not something you would catch on like a pre-trip unless it was really, really bad.
But the tire would tell you.
Yeah, that's why, I put that slide in here was to just show that. You get a tire that's wearing like, kind of, they call it feathering. Mm-hmm. That's usually like a toe issue or something like that. And we actually had a trailer, that's probably been 3 or 4 months ago, came in, this guy was off the road and wanted 4 used tires. And he was driving a Volvo. Not that that matters. But I'm like, okay. And we're 50 miles from St. Louis. We put 4 tires on it. One side of the trailer, the duals were about this far apart, and the other side are like this far apart. I'm like, bud, you got something bad going on here. He goes, I'll fix it when I get to California. I'm like, you ain't going to make it to Missouri, but okay. You do you. Somebody over there will sell you 4 more tires. But I mean, that was a severe case there. But, your tires can tell you a lot about what's going on with your vehicle.
And then with that steer tire, it was is it always just the kingpins that causes that on a steer tire, or is there something else?
It could be, kingpin's usually the first thing I'm going to check on something like that. Worn out shocks can cause that too. A tire out of balance, but your kingpin and shocks probably going to be more common than, an out of balance condition, because usually with an out of balance issue on a steer tire, you're going to kind of get to shaking in the steering wheel. And that guy, that truck wasn't in there for that. That was just something that we seen him like, hey man, you got something going on here. And he's like, well, what do you think it is? So we jacked it up, and it was just kingpins on that one. But
So what do you consider a good pre-trip inspection? Just
personally, the way I do it, I start the truck. Most of the time your low air buzzer's going off, so that's working. You get out, open the hood, and then kind of I'll grab the steering shaft and kind of twist it like this while you're using the power steering. Well, then you can see your steering parts if any of them are loose, because you're watching them, the actual function there. And then, start checking spring hangers and just looking at stuff and looking for like the slide with the loose slug nuts. Anything where you see rust streaks on something, usually got a bolt coming loose. Bolt or nuts coming loose, and, it's not going to get better. So I can't get this thing to work again. I hate computers.
I have a video of him doing a pre-trip, and I can show that to any of you guys that want to see it, or text it to you or whatever. So
Yeah,
if you come up to me and give me your number, I'll get that video to you.
It turned out a little longer than what, but when a person drives the same vehicle every day too, that helps too. We get some guys that jump in different trucks every day, like some of these construction guys and stuff, and they don't care because they're like, well, hell, I didn't break it, And that's not a good attitude to have, because at the end of the day, some of the shit, I'm not going to preach like I'm a safety guy or anything, but a safe truck is generally a reliable truck, you know. And I just see people spend thousands of dollars on stuff, and you'd think that would make me happy because that makes me more money, but in the grand scheme of things, it's like, well, these people are spending money on something that they wouldn't have had to. You know, fix it when it's a $300 problem versus a $5,000 problem. But looking for any kind of leaks, like oil leaks and stuff like that, it's generally not a DOT violation, but it can lead to something very, very expensive if left unattended. I don't know if that kind of answers what you're... Anybody else? Nobody else wants to pick on me? Okay, here we go. Yeah, probably.
I guess not particularly pre-trip, but with these newer emission systems, I've heard multiple ways of start them up, let them air up, let them go, let them run, put them on high idle when they let them warm up. In your opinion, or what you've seen with your customers running the DEF trucks, what would you recommend is the best way to do that?
You talking about making the emission stuff last longer?
Yeah, like, I mean, obviously let the truck run for a couple minutes, but it's like let it run up to temperature, let it air up, make sure you got everything working, then go, or... I've just heard so many different ways about
How many of you guys on here got TikTok? Okay.
access to it.
There's a guy on there, he's got a shop out in Utah, and he's kind of on that mindset. He's like, start it, take off down the road, it's going to get up temperature faster. And I'm like, I don't know. I mean, I'd at least let it run and get somewhat temperature in it. I mean, that's just me.
It's my first emissions truck. I mean,
But-
the old one I'll let run for a while, but that's...
Letting the emissions truck idle for extended period of times, I'm talking, 30 minutes and more, that's not real good on them as far as longevity of it.
Two quick questions. One, just ballpark, what percentage of your shop's work do you think could have been prevented by the drivers or trucking companies? And I'll give you the second question to think about. For a company that's developing its own in-house shop, what would be 3 to 5 best practices for preventive maintenance?
So our shop, we'll do service calls, we do over-the-road work, but the vast majority of our clientele are repeat customers, fleets, and people that are in there all the time. So as far as having the preventative stuff, we are seeing their trucks all the time. So hopefully we're catching it. And so we don't have a huge amount of stuff that could be prevented now. I mean, like Sean was, but
Yeah.
I would say that we have a smaller percentage in our shop of stuff that could be prevented because we are preventing it. So then that goes back to finding a quality shop that does more than just an oil change, because then your shop is catching that for you. And so I think we do a very good job of doing that for our customers, catching it for them. We have built-in inspections that are mandatory for our techs to do when something comes in, so we are catching that. Now, you take his question on in-house shop, and
So you're saying you're wanting to, basically, you got trucks and you want to have a shop at your own facility. I would probably get them on a regimen of greasing them, on a regular basis. Maybe, how many miles do you usually run on your service? I don't know what kind of driving you do, so you run 10, 15,000 or like way more than that?
100 to 300 miles a day per truck.
But I mean, when are you servicing them, like on your intervals?
As needed.
Like when they break down, like him on a tow truck? Yeah, that's not the right answer. Okay, so I call vocational trucks, which is a lot of the work that we do. We don't do a lot of like long haul guys. I mean, we do some, but they're probably at 10% of our work. We're in a pretty rural area. There's a lot of construction, a lot of agriculture, stuff like that. We typically service some trucks like every 10 to 12,000 miles, which would probably be excessive for a guy that's driving from, you know, California to New York all the time. But in a case like yours, I would probably, if possible, if you can get somebody to grease them, maybe every 5,000 miles, that gives you a real good chance to put your eyes on everything, you know, because you're under the truck, you're greasing it, you know, you're looking at brakes and stuff like that, and then maybe service them. Trailers, like I said, are the world's worst for getting neglected on stuff. What kind of trailers you got?
We don't have any. It's all straight trucks and tankers.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I would probably recommend 5,000 miles. Or how much time would that be for you? Like 3 months or?
Somewhere in that range.
Or, you know, maybe even once a month, grease one. Pull them in, just give them a good look over and get them underneath one with the creeper and everything, and you're kind of putting your eyes on it, you know, before something has a problem. Huh? I'm out of time already? Any more questions? Get the hell off stage, shut up. All right, well, I guess we're done. So enjoy the rest of the show. If you got any questions, holler at me.